Okay, hello everyone. So today I thought I'd talk about one of my favorite Barry moves, and it's so simple and it's so useful over so many applications, and Barry uses it all over the place, and that's what I affectionately call his Echappe figure. I know it's a little bit ridiculous to put such an academic term on Barry's teachings, but there you have it. That's how I think about it. An Echappe is when, or an escape tone is when you have a descending line, for example, and one note escapes the line. So let's go down, right? That one line escapes, and so they call it an Echappe. So how does that apply to here? So here's the thing real quick. For example, if I'm doing 2-5-1 in C, the people's key is C, right? Here's my Echappe. Right, and then you can apply it through all of the modulation patterns that we did in the last video on how to practice 2-5-1 Barry Harris style. All of the videos I'll reference, by the way, are linked to in the description, so you can go crazy. And that's where there's really a much more targeted discussion of those concepts, but we'll try to apply them into this idea here. So first things first, let's work back the 2 to the 5. So the 2 is D minor 7, but in Barry world we know that a D minor 7 is really an F6. And an F6, if you take an F6 in 3-note voicing, and again there's whole video on drop voicings and 3-note voicings, you can check that out. We're gonna let go the F. We have now the A, C, and D. The C gets moved down the octave, and there's my 3-note F6. Okay, that serves as the D minor 7th. That's going to move to a G7, and we're going to invoke the family, the diminished family of G7. In this case, we'll play an E6 with B as the drop 3. What does this mean? Here's my E6, invert up to the second inversion. The third voice down is a B. It gets dropped down the octave, and there's my E6. B is the drop 3, and that serves as the diminished family of G7. Okay? So there's a very, very cool G7. And why is it the diminished family? There's a whole discussion on this, the diminished genealogy. But basically, if I took this, in this case, I guess it would be a D diminished, right? And I moved the bottom 2 chord tones down a half step, I ended up with an E6. That is the same diminished, this D diminished or A flat diminished, because an A flat diminished is identical to a B diminished, is identical to a D diminished, is identical to an F diminished. This A flat diminished, if I lowered the A flat to a G, I end up with a G7. So in other words, all of these tonics of these dominant chords are in the diminished family, G, B flat, D flat, and E. So if Barry ever asked you what's the diminished family of G7, you would say G, B flat, D flat, and E. And here's an E6, right? Here's my diminished. I took the D and the F, I moved it down, I ended up with an E6, and that plays well with the G7. So that's the lightning version of the spark notes on the diminished family. But again, there's a whole video on this. So recapping, D minor 7th with an F6 3-note voicing to a G7 with a drop 3 voicing, E6 drop 3. Now, he uses this all over the place, right? What's this song? The song that he wrote on How High the Moon. The name escapes me at the moment. I guess the theme of the video is escaping. The name Echappe my mind, but it's and here it is. it's a stripped down version of what he's playing, but it's exactly the same idea. If I wanted to do the, I might go. Just a few more notes, but it's exactly the same thing. So back to our pattern. Actually, it might be nicer to start this in G. So in F rather. E flat, D flat, B, and so on. If I wanted to go in half steps, it would be F, and then E, right? And then E flat, and so on. So this is eminently useful. Now to the Echappe part. As we know, and let's come back to the key of C example. Okay, so here's my example in C. Right, as we know, this F6 is part of an F6 diminished. So now I could take that 6 diminished down, and when I get to that inversion, I can execute my 2/5 pattern. So that's already such a pretty line. I didn't do that. Right? So it's already a very pretty line. Now the Echappe. What is an Echappe? One note escapes. So if I'm coming here from this inversion down to this inversion, and there's a diminished in between, I can escape up to the diminished note, and then land on the diminished, and there it is. Notice only the outer voices move. This is what makes this very useful and executable. You're not trying to do too many things at once. You just move the outer voices. What if I did the next inversion up? What if I did the next inversion up? Oh lordy, what is this? This is an E flat 6 diminished. Did this so many of them, but as you can see, it's got a lot of possibilities here. So how would I apply this? So the one main application, well, there's I showed you another application from before, and on How High the Moon. There's also one really beautiful example that came up once in chorus. He was playing around with this idea. And it stayed with me forever because it was so gorgeous. And that's on April in Paris. April in Paris. Now, the thing about this is he's talking about you can do this on the 2/5, but you can also do it on the 1. And it serves as a really beautiful thematic continuity, if you will. So April in Paris. So here's a C major. I'll play a C6. Simple C6. I did that wrong. Here it is again. 3, 4. April in Paris. Chestnuts in blossom. Holiday tables under the trees. Now here, he'll put it in F, and he'll go... And then here's the 1 on the F. I wonder if I could do it on an A minor 6. That's so pretty. Here on this E minor 7 flat 5, I might opt to use a G minor 6 and do that same Echappe figure. Right? And then that'll move to maybe the tritones minor on the A7, which is a B flat minor 6th. More on that. There's the 6-chord rules. Look at those. Look at my 10-chord routine. So, and 10-chord routine 3-note version, which is really at the heart of this. All you're doing is adding one melodic move to that. Time of spring, never met it. Here it is again. I wonder if I could do it on the tritones minor. Here's my E7 going to A minor. You know, this is where I would get yelled at for trying to do too much. So, but I'm going to try it anyway. I don't care. I never knew my heart could sing. Let's try this. I never knew my heart could sing. Never met a warm embrace. Perfect place to put on the E major. Till April in Paris. This is the feeling. Oh, what would I do here on a dominant? So the important minor on a dominant is, and here's the A7th. I would use E minor 6. I wonder what that would sound like. So, so E minor 6 there would be, or D flat, B flat minor 6. So here's my 3-note B flat minor 6. Woo, that's a nice one. It's starting to sound a little strange, but it did work out in the end. Let's try it here. So, eminently useful, eminently because you're going to use it very soon, eminently because it's very, very available. So it's both imminently and eminently useful. Love to hear your comments. Let me know about this. Barry uses it all the time. This is just a real staple. And it's a very elegant use of several of these concepts. Again, the beauty of this system is that you have really a limited amount of concepts, maybe a handful, maybe less than 10. But the connections between them are endless, right? That's also the bad part because it can be overwhelming. So what I try to do is focus them into specific groups and then to see how those groups connect on a per case basis. And again, that's what makes this a wide open conversation. I'd love to hear what you guys come up with this, what songs you put it on. Keep the conversation going. So love to hear your comments. If this is useful to you, please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with all your friends. Hit the notification bell so that you're notified of everything that's coming up. I'm planning on some cool live streams, and I'm playing around with all the technology and what have you. So there's some live streams coming up. And then if this is useful to you, this helps you, please consider supporting me on Patreon, patreon.com/Isaac Roz. And you'll get all kinds of perks, just like American Express membership has its benefits. So thanks again for watching. I hope this is useful, and I will see you guys on the next one. Keep swinging out there.